Alright. Mr. Question.
What's that?
Like, we just like.
Yes, he makes it.
Alright, so.
Yes! We have your
Here's
name
David
start.
Wright.
You guys give them your attention.
Alright, so I'm David Wright and this is Matthew Raleigh, and we remodeled the steam engine that James Watt built in 1705. Basically, how we remodeled it is that you used to pump coal into it with heat, and now you can just use hydraulic air. See, it moves a little bit, but if we put water in it, it moves a lot more. So we made it hydraulic instead of coal, and this is where the water would come out if you were to pump it, and then it makes the piston move also. And then Matthew has more information on how it works.
Okay, so basically we decided to use Charles's law of gas, which says that gases can be compressed, but fluids cannot in a sense. So we figured out that this engine actually loses some momentum when it's compressing that gas, because if you use fluid, it's gonna just straight in out. But if you're gonna use a regular gas, that gas will compress, and then you'll start getting a reflux of just energy just constantly losing. So we had to find a liquid that is strong enough, that has enough viscosity. The viscosity we're looking for is a 24 Pascal second viscosity, which a Pascal second is just how, like honey is about 8 Pascals and water is about exactly 1 Pascal. So we had to get a fluid that hit 24 Pascals at a high temperature of 220 degrees Celsius. And we looked around, we saw ammonia. I don't think ammonia is the best idea for an engine, because when you're getting ammonia out of the outtake, you're gonna breathe that in and probably die. So we decided to use hydraulic fluid, and it was perfect for this.
That's it, I guess.
This model also works.
Alright, who would like to go next? I will pull a rubric out randomly. Haley and Kaylee.
See you on the other side.
Guys, you should be paying attention to everybody's presentations. No thumbs out.
So our person is Paladin. His name in both languages, for English and Italian, is weird because translating for us is Paladidium and theirs is Paladinio. But anyways, he was born in November 30th, 1508. He died in the late 1580s, around the age of 77. But during his lifespan, he wrote 4 books of architecture, which one was his own, which he built the Villa Rodia, which are mock-up bits.
The building, one of the reasons it's like very famous in Italy is that it's known for being symmetric. Every side of the building is exactly the same, which was it wasn't like a lot of buildings are like that. And that's a lot of what it's known for. The house was originally built for a priest. It was a countryside home, and then it just became like an architectural thing you can visit.
Also at the top, on the top and the inside, there's artwork inside with sculptures all around. So like they had, or Palladino had someone like go in and like paint and sculpt. So when he placed them up there, he had no original idea that it would be a museum. It was going to be for a priest. But so what we did to make it like improved, we put on the top,
Solar panels.
yeah, solar panels. So you could gather like light and energy and use the energy for the lights inside instead of spending money for energy that's going to be used through the museum. Instead, be eco-friendly.
The solar panels will increase the price if they did in the future want to sell the structure to some buyer.
And our engineer was Thomas, I forgot his last name, but he was one of the, Newcomen. But he was one of the engineers that started the steam engine after James Watt had started he improved on it. And that is the end of our.
Max, go. You go, Max.
That's the point. Max, go.
Max, go. I'm just going straight to the point. No need.
How are you using out of your hydraulic energy?
My name is Max Trim. My partner is Zach Compton. He isn't here today. He had a fever, so I'm going to be doing my project on this. But my engineer is Eli Whitney. When he invented the cotton gin in 1793 and filed a patent for it, it was revolutionary. It would make separating the cotton seeds from the lint so much easier than it was before. It would save a lot of time. But it was still not perfect because for simple reasons. One, the lint was still just lint. You couldn't do anything with the lint until you made it into thread to be sewed. And that's what my improvement is. It's getting a device to wrap the thread around a spool inside the cotton gin before it ever reaches human hands. It will increase productivity of the cotton clothes that many factories use this for. It would increase that very, very much, and it would also make the need for less workers and make the working environment much safer than it was before.
Any volunteers? Am I going random again? Okay. Nathan and Tina.
Nice.
It does.
Like your police mentioned, like.
Okay, go.
When Eli, okay, so. The person we are doing is Eli Whitney. Eli Whitney, lives in cotton gin so that, it could be easier to separate the seeds from the cotton, and also, but the seeds were also needed as the seeds had to be stored. The seeds needed to be stored and used next year, and used the year afterwards to make more cotton. And this is what we made. It is a basket for
So basically what we made, I guess it looks like a box, but what we made, the way we improved it was the seeds and the cotton, like how they separated it, that little belt. You could say I guess they couldn't. It was kind of slow to get it all and store all the seeds. So what we did to improve it was make this. So basically, we would get all the seeds and go down this pipe, and we would store all the seeds in here. So so you could store it easier, like whatever you think is safest, like right there or something. You could just store it and wait until a year and then just start replanting them. And I guess that's it.
All right, thank you guys. Alright. Volunteer? Alright. Giancarlo and Corey.
Alexander Graham Bell, at the time of the Industrial Revolution, was an important inventor, inventing the telephone and the graphophone, which actually helped save a president's life. While right here we had the steam engine, we had misinterpreted how I would say the topic of our assignment. We instead have created a brick of wood, which I am not proud of yet. I would feel like Alexander Graham Bell would have done better. While I should say something about the steam engine, I should really not, as Alexander Graham Bell did not have any part to say. Alexander Graham Bell instead actually would have created the craft film, which would actually be in our time the metal detector. I would say to improve the so-called metal detector or the craft film that Alexander Graham Bell had created, we should have made it a much smaller version so that it could actually detect anything in the presence of it, somewhat similar to a radar.
Kentrell, Dominic, and Owen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Hetch, and this is my group. I will allow them to introduce themselves. Okay, so we decided to choose our architect, Gustav Eiffel, and engineer, James Watt. We decided to create a mock-up of the Eiffel Tower, and we found something that we need to make an improvement to, and so we made it. We decided to make a more stable base for the Eiffel Tower, and the Eiffel Tower was built in 1887.
Gustav Eiffel, he was born in 1832, died 1918. he was a Frenchman who decided to come up with the Eiffel Tower as a symbol of France. And what happened is that the Eiffel Tower was in brutal times, like World War I, where it was part of this, the top of this was destroyed, so he had to rebuild part of this, and it took years to do all that. And Gustav Eiffel, what he did is he built this to represent where he lived, which is France.
Yeah, so we wanted to make it look as much as the Eiffel Tower as we did, so we painted it nice and spray painted first, and we painted it with some brown to make it look natural. And yeah, this is our finished project of the Eiffel Tower.
Good job, Lily.
All right. Colby and Riley.
So our architect was Louis Sullivan and our engineer was James Watt. So we decided to make a mock-up of James Watt.
So you take you're not in the camera.
Okay,
There you go.
we made this out of popsicle sticks, cardboard, and we used some of that like foam-like wood, and we even used a part of the yellow index card. We cut some of it out, and we used some blue tape. And as you can see, we tried spray painting it, but it didn't turn out so good. So we ran out.
But we actually ended up finding a purpose for that. Because what we used it for is we used it to show how we actually improved on it. Since what we decided to do with it was improve the actual base, the invention. So in case something were to happen to the top, we would at least know that the base and all the stuff under it would be safe along with the wheel, which we then decided to reinforce too.
What was your improvement?
Our improvement was actually making this stronger and making the wheel stronger too, so nothing could happen to that in case something actually did somehow malfunction, something went wrong with it.
That it? Cameron and Evan.
You would say.
That's what you got.
Our engineer is James Watt, and in 1794, he invented the cotton gin. This began a new era in the 1760s, which was called the Industrial Revolution. The cities became overcrowded because people richer than people poor people had to move to the cities because the people that were richer took over their farms and took over at least 4 and just made one big one.
Okay, so the cotton gin was a huge invention in 1794. It helped make cotton easier to make, and also made a lot of money, worth a lot of money.
One of the improvements that were made was they were free. Like you could spin the wheels from the outside manually, and the gears were softer but more stable, so that no cotton could get stuck on the inside. And then we made a slide so that if cotton was to get stuck in there, you could still pull it out manually. Thank you.
Good job. Okay, Michaela, and Daniela. I'm trying to find your two names now.
The military bridge, now known as the Walnut Street Bridge, was built in 1878 by Edwin Thatcher and it was finished being built in 1891. It was used as a military highway to transport heavy military vehicles with supplies in them, and after a lot of constant use, they became very weak and had to be reconstructed. Reconstruction on the bridge started in 1978 and was done in 1991. It was turned into the Walnut Street Bridge and it was open to the public in 1993. It was placed in the National Historic Register in February 23rd, 1990, and is now one of the biggest tourist attractions in Tennessee.
So one of the improvements that we put on the bridge is we added some LED lights onto the bridge. Just a little yellow Pokemon things you see on the little sticks. And like on a grand scale, the LED lights, they use less electricity. Less electricity causes less money to be spent yearly on keeping the bridge lit up over the night and anytime it is lit up, because with it being one of the biggest tourist attractions, it's always lit up so people can see it. And so if they use the LED lighting, then that would help not have to spend as much money as they do keeping it lit and keeping it bright so people can notice it. And another improvement is that we put some more greenery on the bridge, because right now there's like some flower pots scattered on different places and benches and different things like that. But with more greenery, it can help make the bridge more eco-friendly, and it can also help like different life forms like birds and insects that live off of these flowers and different plants. And another improvement we put on is telescopes, so like the little things that you can look through that aren't really telescopes, but it costs like 25 cents to make them work. And so once you put the money in, that can go towards either like the bridge or some kind of local like operation that goes towards a good cause, and it can be used as different types of fundraising to be able to work towards different things. And before we put all this on, the bridge does have lights, but it doesn't have the LED lights, and those lights cost a lot of money to be able to keep running and to be able to keep working, because those light bulbs have to be replaced over and over again. With the LED lights, they don't have to be replaced as often because they're not using as much electricity, which will burn them out quicker. And they have they have benches and little flower pots, but the flower pots and like the flowers in them are not always the healthiest. And so with the more greenery, it will have more that in keeping them maintained and taking care of them. It would be very helpful to be able to help us.
Oh, we also added a bike lane.
Yeah, we added a bike lane on there too, because as of right now, there's people just having to avoid the bikes and as they're going down the walking bridge, because they don't have a lane to go in. But if they have a bike lane, then we know to not go into that area, obviously, for bikes.
Who wants to go next? Oh, yeah, Monica and Katie, come on. Show us up, girls.
You got this.
Only got one. Anyways, sorry.
Okay, so we did the dishwasher by Josephine Cochran, which the dishwasher was created in 1886, and Josephine Cochran was born on March 8th, 1839, and she died August 14th, 1913. She was basically, her dad worked in a miller, and she was a supervisor for the miller, and she was always around him. He was a hydraulics engineer as well, so that's how she got into engineering and wanted to create for her. The dishwasher now has improved and it's changing different as the invention of the dishwasher was made. But it was made in 1886 by Josephine Cochran. Back when they didn't have dishwashers, it was hard to do dishes, but the dishwasher has made our lives so much easier. Let's be real, almost every house has a dishwasher. They have become very popular over the years. But we were thinking how the dishwasher washes all the dishes, but at the end of the world, it's wet. We wanted to show you a dishwasher that has a dryer in it because it makes life a little bit more easy and also make it more advanced. So when we added the dryer, we decided that it would be easier because I know when we're washing the dishes and you open it and you're like, oh, I'm gonna just take them out and put them up and they're still wet. You have to take your time to dry them. So that's why we added the dryer. And as you can see, we added this stick right here as a little fan so you can twirl it and it spins the dishwasher. The dryer, well, it spins the wheel and dries the dishes.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, what's your chair?
All right.
Don't be looking at me, Grace.
Alright.
Wait, hold up. Stop. You're going to class. Stop. You start. All right. Stop. Okay. Oh, y'all gonna make it.
Alright, you go.
All right. Oh. Our architecture is the Eiffel Tower. In this presentation, we talk about the importance of the Eiffel Tower and how we can make it better. The Eiffel Tower was built by Gustav Eiffel and was completed in 1889. Gustav used lattice iron to construct the tower. The tower cost $1.5 million to build. The tower is 1,063 feet and it weighs 10 million, or is it 10,000 tons? Yeah, 10,000 tons. There are 5 billion lights. Oh, wait, oh.
Next one. Oh, hold up, sorry.
That's fine.
While the tower was built as the entrance arch for the 1889 World's Fair in Paris, France, it holds much more significance. It is the undisputed symbol of Paris and often even used as a symbol for all of France. The way that we improved this is how we would install LED lights because it would save a lot more money and it wouldn't use so many lights because the Eiffel Tower has more than 5 billion lights on it.
And thank you for letting us present.
What? Skylar and Grace.
You know what I'm saying? What?
On YouTube, there's some pretty live.
Like I have it on.
You should have do OHS features. I do not have. Like, not.
We got.
So. They're already.
Alright, so James Watt took the new steam engine and he realized that it was just wasting steam that it was producing. So what he did was he took it and he improved it to where it did not waste as much steam as new steam engine did.
And so basically the way he did that was he increased the seals in the piston head. Basically, he made the seals better so that it would keep its steam in longer, and he reduced its heat leakage because it actually leaked quite a lot of heat in the process of creation of steam, then wasting power and fuel.
So what James Watt did is he took the engine and he put a double reactor. He doubled what Newcomb had, and what he did was he pretty much multiplied the power. He did the push and the pull. So as steam was pushed into the factories, steam could also be pulled out of the factories. So then the factory could pretty much take the products, produce them faster, sell them, while also producing other ones, being able to work 10 times faster than they would with new steam.
Yeah, that was a double action steam engine. So basically, like you see with a combustion engine, when the piston goes up and nothing comes down, that's basically what they used. And the improvements we made was he actually didn't utilize gear ratios very well, so he was wasting a lot of power in that end. He was producing a lot in the piston itself, but when it came to using it, he was wasting that. So we increased the gear ratios so that it would actually work better. And then, bless you, we increased the seams so they would actually hold heat and steam better because he didn't perfect that. He actually, it still leaked a lot of steam and heat. He just improved it slightly. And yeah, that's what it is.
All right, Sid and Ashton. Our last group, guys, so make sure you stay quiet.
Alright, so our inventor was Henry Bessemer. He in 1856 he invented the steel, and the problem with steel mostly is the cooling effect. So when you want to cool steel, it cooled too quickly, so it was too hard to like to different things. So what we invented was this tool that you could put steel into, and it would cool it slower to make softened steel, so you can mold into different things. And what steel was mainly for was like framing and build bridges and different tools and stuff. So, and another thing that they couldn't do was use it for houses because installation would be hard to do, and it would always be like hot in the house, no matter what. And then what also they couldn't make was different stuff like cars or boats or anything that they needed for like the outside or the hardened inside.
So what we did was we made it where you would pour steel in here and it's a hole on top that would cool it down, and you would slot the thing back in to hold it in so it cool down. And you would just hold it like this, and
That's it.
So guys, what I'd like y'all to do, I'm gonna move this table out of the way and let you guys walk. Holster up here, short people in the front, tall people in the back.
I'll sit in the middle.
Y'all move, I'm tall.
Right here.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. Good job, grandson. Oh.
God, I think the toss will be in the bag.
Oh.
Grayson. Some of you guys may have to feel it on the floor.
Everybody do it.
Like, you have to get in the front.
I'm not sure.
I guess it's.
It's still lying. Guys, we're all a family. We can squeeze together.
Okay, but I mean,
Oh, why we all do? Okay, that's kind of weird. Wait,
Wait.
this is live. Wait, what are we supposed to be?
no,
looking
look
at?
at his hair. Oh, we were looking at
I hope Mr. Watch is watching this.
Who are we? We are. Architecture and engineering.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, look not serious for a second. Look not serious at the Blackberry. What are you doing?
Wait, did she say that? Are we also breathing? I said yes. Yes.
Exit stream.
Exit stream.
Exit stream.
Exit stream.
Bye.